How can it get worse than almost dying in the attic?
You'll find out.
Okay.
Because the hauntings are ongoing. Things were escalating, and clearly the entity was not going to stop. As Jackie is thinking about how it's not going to stop, her daughter's comforter spontaneously combusted into flames.
What?
There's the singe marks.
What?
And it's also in a pattern of 3.
The singe marks looks like devil horns, don't they?
Oh, God, it does. It is a miracle that they are alive.
Shit.
Hey.
This is 2 girls, 1 ghost.
2 girls, 1 ghost. I really did a huge, neck snap when I did it. We are your ghostesses. That's Corinne.
Hello.
I'm Sabrina. And
we're in
congrats.
red. Oh, yes.
Today's the day.
Today's the day. The groundhog is out. No, Blink is out. The podcast that I worked on with a man named Jake Haendel a couple years ago, and it's finally out now. So please go listen.
Go check it out.
We linked it in our show notes. It's the super incredible story of this man who is the only person in the world to survive this terminal illness. And his story is grounded in his recovery, but there's a lot of other things going on.
So many things.
There's supernatural things happening. There's drug deals, attempted murders. It's just like the most wild story I've ever heard in my life. And I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to work on it.
This is a message to everyone that if you strike up a conversation with a stranger, you never know where it might lead.
Right. Yeah. A few words in the elevator and boom, I'm helping Jake.
A podcast.
Helping Jake tell his story on the podcast. So yeah, it's freaking wild. So please go listen.
Go listen. Support our ghostess, Corinne.
Yes. And then also for our Haunted With in March, Jake is going to join us because there are a lot of kind of like spooky supernatural elements to his story.
I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah. So he's going to join us to tell us
because he had
a
like a near-death
about.
experience.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some astral projection. There's like weird family psychic sort of things happening. And so like, yeah, like literally pick a theme. Jake somehow has lived it and it's part of his story. So
and he's like our age.
Yeah. He's just a few years older and he's a Halloween baby. Halloween birthday.
Spooky bitch.
Jake is a spooky little bitch.
Spooky little bitch.
And Blink, Jake Handel's story, is out now.
Speaking of things that are out, I just watched it. We're recording in January, but Nosferatu.
Okay, I keep seeing people reenact the plot on like TikTok, and it looks... When I look at the trailer, I'm like, I need to watch this. But then when I look at people's reenactments, I'm like, does anything actually ever happen in this?
A lot happens in it. I don't know if you'll like it. It's one of those movies where I'm like, Corinne will either really like this or really hate it.
If it's too
There's
artsy,
no
I'm
in
not
between.
gonna like it.
Okay, so you won't like it.
Okay, yeah.
It's very artsy, but it's the original Nosferatu is a talkie. So it's a silent film. Not a talkie, a silent film.
Yeah.
So it's opposite of a talkie.
In my mind, I was just like, wait a second.
You knew what I was saying, but opposite of a talkie. So it was a silent film. So it's all subtitled, and it's based on or inspired by Dracula by Bram Stoker. And so it's vampire horror, but it's filmed so beautifully. There were so many shots that I was like, I want to recreate this and I want to have a photo shoot. The final image of the movie is one of the most beautiful images I've ever seen.
I want to see this. Just the final image. I'm not sure I want to see the whole movie.
It is long. It is long. But it's Lily Rose Depp and the guy from The Great. As I was watching it, I realized I've become desensitized to some scary things. Because I would argue it is a scary movie. Not once was I scared.
Is it because it was too artsy?
No. Because there were moments that I was like, this should be a jumpy, scary moment. And I was not scared.
How interesting.
But I'm also very incapable of feeling emotions right now.
A little too numb. Perfect time to watch scary movies.
Yeah. So
binge them all.
Send me your recs.
Did you know Snoop Dogg
good pivot
has a song, an affirmation song that's like made for kids?
Well, I love Snoop Dogg.
He is perfect.
I've been sleeping on Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg is the best person in the world. Snoop Dogg for president. Just 2 white girls loving Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, love him. But the content of this episode is not so lovely.
And not really kid-friendly.
No, definitely not. No kids allowed. Hey, unless you're a spooky kid, which if your parents allow you to listen, who am I to judge? This is part 2 of our 2-parter on the San Pedro Poltergeist. Again, I'm going to start the episode with a content warning, and then we'll kind of do a recap of what happened in part 1. We do recommend that you go back and listen to episode 306, which is part 1 of this story, so you don't miss a lot of juicy, terrifying stuff that happened.
Yeah.
Setting up part 2. Okay, our content warning. Same one I said last episode. This episode contains haunting subject matter and potentially triggering content. It is the story of a vengeful entity who physically attacked, attempted to kill, and was relentless in its efforts to haunt not just one person, but many. We left off in part 1 after introducing the setting, which was San Pedro, and we set up Jackie Hernandez and the events that led to her calling in parapsychologists to assist in determining and hopefully, but unsuccessfully, getting rid of this paranormal activity. What instead ensued was a horrific series of events that led to the attempted murder of Jeff Wheaton in the San Pedro home's attic on September 4th of 1989. Fortunately, Jeff did survive, but this was not the last attempt to take his or others involved in this case's lives. The entity that was haunting Jackie Hernandez was just getting started. So today, my friends, in the final part of this 2-part episode, we will resume with the haunting night of September 4th, 1989, and hear years more of paranormal activity. But perhaps we'll find answers to who or what was responsible for these hauntings. And we might even find out why.
What? Can I make a prediction?
Sure.
Is there one single man who was once human who's kind of morphed into this poltergeist, and it's his human blood that's been oozing?
We don't get an answer on the human blood, but I think we can presume or make an assumption. But you're not far off.
Okay.
Again, shout out to the documentary called An Unknown Encounter, the true account of San Pedro haunting, directed by Barry Conrad, released in 1997. Which, again, if you want to see actual footage and interviews and photos and documentation, I highly recommend going to see it. Go to your couch and turn on Amazon Prime where you can watch it. All right. So it is early in the wee hours of September 4th, 1989. Jeff is finally removed and saved from what he was sure would have been his death. And he and Barry leave the attic. He tries to collect himself and piece together what the hell just happened, but he can hardly put it together because the hauntings are ongoing. They are continuing. Yeah. It is so active.
Oh my God.
This is one of those stories that's so wild. I don't know if you've experienced it, but when you research like a certain story and you almost feel like you don't have to refer to your notes because it's so, like, you just know every detail.
Yeah.
This is one of those.
I felt like that with the Smurl possession, although I referenced my notes a lot because I was like, I don't want to get anything wrong here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just so wild that I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That and Jeff the Mongoose. I could recite Jeff to you right now.
Like, still, Jeff is always stuck with us. So you might ask, why did they not, after Jeff was attempted to be hanged in the attic?
Why not the mongoose, the human.
Yeah, the human.
In the story.
Why they didn't pack their things and leave. Mm-hmm. But I think it was just like so much was happening all at once. It was hard to process in the moment. Barry Conrad is filming when... Are you okay?
Yeah, I just heard a couple clicks. So I was just looking at what could have been moving and clicking.
If you do see our plant moving, it's because we have a little space heater blowing air.
Yeah. It's the plant waving hello.
Hello. So Barry Conrad is filming when the others witness a ball of light pop and move towards Barry, almost as if flying into him. And as this light flies towards Barry and goes into him, Barry is struck with a surge of energy and he passes out. So like they were watching his eyes fade out, almost as if all of the light source went out of him.
Holy shit.
So this is now 2 physical attacks in one night, in a matter of hours.
Wait, this was Barry that it happened to?
Mm-hmm.
So now we have 2 men down out of the 4.
Yeah. I mean, they're all still in the house, but 2 attacks. Yeah. Jeff was usually the logic police, but he was like, this is unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And he couldn't reason with the things that were happening and that he was experiencing. And he was plagued by such bad headaches after what had happened to him in the attic that he had to go sit outside. Like he removed himself from the house, sat outside to get some fresh air.
Good.
Jackie grabs her newborn child, her daughter, Samantha, and her 2-year-old son, maybe 3 at this time, year-old son, Jamie. And with her friend Susan, who was at the house with them this night, they all go outside and join Jeff outside.
Mm-hmm.
While they're outside, I think Susan had to like run inside to grab something from the kitchen. And when she came back out, she saw on baby Samantha's forehead this massive red mark. And in the documentary, you can see a film of it. But Jackie's so terrified that she thinks that her daughter was like hit or something, that this is a physical wound. So she goes up to her daughter and like basically like wipes it away. And it fortunately was not a wound. It was like a liquid of some kind. Was it the blood? Was it the human plasma liquid?
Holy shit.
It was red.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they did not bottle that up to test. But Jackie is like relieved. But now,
also like the tiniest amount of respect for this poltergeist to actually not truly inflict harm on the kids.
But it's inching towards.
Yes. It's hinting at it.
It will.
It will.
So by 3 a.m., Jackie and the team left the house and Jackie was like, I'm moving. And in part 1, we talked about how she was kind of broke and had spent all of her money restarting her life. She hadn't moved in that long ago. And so she was like, I don't have the money to move, but she knew she couldn't stay there. So she packed up her things and moved. And in the Los Angeles Times article I read, she apparently tried to rekindle things with her ex-husband, but that was not mentioned at all in the documentary. So I don't necessarily know. I don't know the details of that. But Jeff, Barry, and the team thought this would be the end of the hauntings. That like whatever it was going to stay in the house. And with Jackie moving, it would be the end, right?
Yeah, you would think.
This entity knew where everyone lived. And it had its mind set on hurting and haunting with no end in sight.
Oh my gosh. This is like in the Smurls when they followed on the camping trip.
I know.
In part 1, you mentioned how this entity did follow one of Jackie's friends one time.
Yeah.
And so I would understand if for like a week or 2 they got activity, but I would have assumed it would kind of like snap back to its own bungalow and that it was just temporarily following until realizing that they weren't returning.
Keep in mind, like this was the first year of Jackie living in this house, and the hauntings happened for 3.5 years. And she never lived in that house again. So it truly followed and continued to torment so many people.
Now I understand when you said that her son was greatly affected by this, because I mean, by the time it ended, he was probably like 7 years old. 7 or 8.
5 or 6. Yeah. On multiple occasions, this entity or the energy of this entity would follow Jeff and Barry. And other people of the team, Barry's, Larry's, Gary's, but mostly Jeff and Barry. And this is what I said in part 1. A lot of the encounters were focused on Jeff and Barry Conrad. They would come home. And I think a lot of the time throughout this period, Jeff would stay at Barry Conrad's apartment in Los Angeles. They would come home to find the burners on the gas stove on by themselves.
That's scary.
It gets worse. Sometimes they would be in the other room and hear the burners turning on, which luckily they would hear it and be able to go turn it off.
I'd be terrified that one of the burners wouldn't be perfectly turned on. The gas would go and then something would turn the actual burner on and then boom.
Just wait. It is a miracle that they are alive.
Shit.
Some of the other investigators had similar experiences, but it usually only happened for them like immediately after leaving Jackie's or after reviewing footage. Speaking of reviewing the footage, this is where discussion of the photos and orbs of light come in, because they basically think that all the hauntings are going to end. Jackie moves, but they're still reviewing all of this footage because they're like, what is this? What did we encounter? What is happening? And when they review the footage, both photo and video, they find countless moments where there are orbs of light flying both inside and outside of Jackie's home. And it almost always was happening like when another paranormal event was happening. So like if someone was like, I hear knocking over there, on the video, there would be a ball of light moving across the screen.
Interesting.
And in studying the photos, they had like different professionals and experts on photos and light type of stuff on the documentary, but they described it as comets of light. They believed it was a visual representation of the entity and spirit, and they seem to be self-illuminating, which only like a couple of bugs are self-illuminating, like lightning bugs. And they would move very differently from how insects move. So like
Fairies?
Insects are, so they had fairy vibe to it because they would dart in a straight line and then move again in another straight line in another direction. Kind of in the same way that people describe seeing aliens or UFOs in the sky moving.
What is happening?
There are a lot of images. Here's one. This is from the documentary where it's circled. You can see the orb of light. Do you see it circled?
Oh, yeah. It's so tiny. It's like a little speck.
So they called them pea pods because a lot of the images, if you got really close up to it, it looked like a little pea pod with the individual peas inside of it. And if you remember in part 1, Jackie and the team would describe seeing these lights start as one, morph into 3, and then rejoin and move around the space.
Interesting.
Yeah. There was also video footage of an orb flying into Jackie's head. And they showed Jackie this, I think, after she had moved out of the house. But she was so horrified by it because she was like, is it in me?
Yeah.
Because that would be a terrifying thing to see.
Well, also, you said Barry, wasn't he like passed out or something because the orb like flew into him, which is also making me think of aliens again and the idea that alien abductions are actual abductions of the astral body.
Right.
So I'm like, was Barry abducted and just didn't realize? And like, is this an alien story?
Are aliens and ghosts related somehow? I don't know. There's one video footage that they show in the documentary where they were doing an examination of the house. This is midday. Like, this is broad daylight. That's another thing that was really common. This wasn't happening at nighttime where it just flashes of lights. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was happening at night, but it was also happening broad daylight where flashes of light like this should not exist.
Also, like, there's no source of the light. So, like, regardless of day or night, like, what's
causing it?
How?
They were outside of the house and this little wood gate, this is back in the San Pedro house, the gate on its own moves open. And when they're reviewing the footage, they see this little orb of light move when the gate is opening. The gate closes, they see an orb of light again move almost at the exact same time. The gate opens again, orb of light. And it's moving in different places on the screen, in the video. It's not like it's in one spot.
Yeah.
They're like, it's not a bug.
How bizarre. Right.
And it's also, there's no wind or anything causing the gate to move. Like, they very much believe it was the entity kind of manipulating things in the house. There were anywhere between 24 to 36 occasions of light phenomena in the 6 hours of videotape that Barry and the team had filmed inside and outside of Jackie Hernandez's home.
That is a shit ton.
Yeah.
That is sometimes what paranormal investigators hope to capture in their entire lifetime.
Right. So it's now October of 1989. Exhausted, Jackie moved her and her children 300 miles north of San Pedro to Weldon, California, where aside from horrible PTSD and the inability to sleep and having nightmares of potentially having these hauntings reoccur, Jackie did find a semblance of peace.
Okay, well, this is good.
For a period of time.
No. Yeah, that's right, because you said it's 3.5 years long.
Yeah. So she kept fearing that the hauntings would return, and it was quiet. And in the LA Times article, Jackie is quoted saying, "Within a couple of weeks or so, I felt really comfortable being there. I thought I had left the ghosts back in the house. I thought everything was going to be okay." Until March of 1990. It was late at night when Jackie heard some scratching in a storage shed just outside of their trailer. She tried to write it off. It's probably just like a wild animal.
Yeah.
But then, shortly after that scratching, she started to see pops of light in her trailer. Things escalated from there. Again, this is like, she's not alone when she's having these experiences. Someone is with her, witnessing it. A friend is over at Jackie's trailer when down the hallway, the friend spots an eerie black shape floating towards them. Jackie knew in that moment it was back. She knew what it was. She knew what was going to happen.
That feels like a play from the Poltergeist to give a sense of calm and like, oh my gosh, I'm finally past it. I have some peace. And then to just wait for her to feel that. And then boom, here I am again.
I also feel like the entity was looking for her.
Oh.
Like it took that period of time to locate her.
Find her.
And then it had to rebuild its energy.
I hate that. It feels like It Follows. It's the scariest movie I've ever seen in my whole life.
Actually, I feel like you won't like it, Nosferatu, because it's nothing. It's not going to be one of those movies where you reference a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I probably won't watch it.
But I really liked it. I personally really liked it.
You like artsier stuff.
Yeah, I'm artsy fartsy. I also like the history of it.
I'm like, just give me the horrors.
Yeah.
Give it to me straight.
So from that moment on, the activity picked up almost as strong as it had been when she left San Pedro, as if nothing had changed. And now she's living in a community with trailers, multiple of them. All of her neighbors start to experience hauntings. To the point where there's a couple that lives nearby that starts to hear banging in their nursery. People are seeing this old man's face, very similar to the old man that Jackie described seeing on her children's bunk beds in part 1.
That is so scary.
Multiple times people would hear those 3 snaps.
This reminds me of the smart position again because the neighbors are experiencing things.
Yep.
And how awful to be like this community that accepts Jackie and her kids in, and then suddenly it's like,
Jackie
you've brought
all
us.
these hauntings.
Yeah.
Things were escalating, and clearly the entity was not going to stop. As Jackie is thinking about how it's not going to stop, her daughter's comforter spontaneously combusted into flames.
What?
In the middle of the night.
Was her daughter in the bed?
No, I think she was okay. Everyone was okay. But
oh my God.
There's the singe marks.
What?
And it's also in a pattern of 3.
The singe marks looks like devil horns, don't they?
Oh, God, it does.
I don't know what the third one is. Maybe the mouth.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, what do you see? Jackie was traumatized. Again, she feels like she's losing her mind and feels like there's no reprieve. There's no way of escaping. There's no safety for her and her children.
Yeah.
She's terrified. And she felt so alone and didn't know what to do. Like all she wanted to do was keep her kids safe. And anyone who walked into Jackie's house experienced something. And now it is Friday the 13th. Of course, Friday the 13th of April 1990. So April 13th, 1990. Things begin to escalate again. Her 2 neighbors, whose names are Jim and Janice, are in like their storage shed grabbing a TV that, keep in mind, this TV is unplugged. It's been sitting outside and they're like, let's move it inside. As they start moving it, Janice freaks out because she sees what is a man's face leering at her from the top corner of the screen of this TV. It is unplugged. It is not on. She's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
She freaks out. So then Jim is like, what's going on? He lowers the TV down and he too sees this face in the TV.
What the hell?
So it's
like, is it a reflection? Like, is it behind me?
Right.
Is it in the TV?
No. I don't know where it is.
Oh my God.
But
that's so scary.
They both see it. And Janice knew, like she was in her gut. She was like, this is something evil. It felt like an evil man looking into her soul. And so that evening, Jackie calls our good friends, Larry, Barry, Jeff. So Jeff and Barry Conrad decide to pack up the car and drive to Jackie's new home in Weldon, California.
Those are some brave souls.
Jeff and Barry decide to drive up and see what is going on in Jackie's new home in Weldon, California. And you kind of said, like, why are they going?
Yeah.
And Jeff recalls in the documentary, like, so many people are like, are you delusional? Why did you keep...
You almost died last time.
Right. Why do you keep going, keep inviting and participating in these hauntings? But the truth is that the hauntings hadn't stopped following him. And he really wanted to make, have some understanding of why was it targeting him so badly?
That makes more sense.
Well, on the night of April 13th, Friday the 13th, 1990, he got some answers. Did it make him feel a little less scared? No, it actually made things worse.
How can it get worse than almost dying in the attic?
You'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah. So call it delusional or brave. He decides to go drive up to Weldon, California with Barry, and they speak to neighbors and they basically get all of their stories. People are seeing flashes of light, the face of the old man, knocking, poltergeist activity. It's just incessant. They again caught the same light phenomena on camera, the
pea pods?
The pea pods / comets of light.
The comets.
Pea pods and comets. And the group does the unthinkable, the unforgivable.
They played a Ouija board?
Yes.
What the fuck? They didn't have any other way of communicating?
Listen, I will say, despite the terror that is about to ensue, that you were about to hear about that happened while using the Ouija board, they did get some answers that I don't think they would have gotten otherwise.
Okay. I mean, I guess you got to do what you got to do. It's already so bad. How can this really make it that much worse?
Right. And also, Jackie was the one who was like, we should do this. So what I appreciate about this is there was a part of me that when I was doing this research where I was like, did Jeff and Barry's and Larry and all those Aries, did they kind of stir up and make the energy worse? Because once I did get involved, it did seem to pick up and become more violent.
Well, there's more people to feed off of.
Or was it always going to be that bad?
Yeah.
So I was nervous when I heard about the Ouija board thing. I was like, please tell me they didn't make Jackie do this. But Jackie actually was the one who suggested the idea.
Dang, Jackie.
Mm-hmm. Similar to Jeff, she was so desperate for answers.
Yeah, makes sense.
This has now followed her 300 miles. It's been over a year of this haunting. So over the course of a couple of hours, this group of 4, so it was Jeff, Jackie, Barry, and then one of Jackie's neighbors / friends, this foursome witnessed so much paranormal activity. It began with the table shaking and the candles flickering on off. The Ouija board was moving so fast, the planchette was moving so fast that they truly couldn't put together the answers in the moment. They had to just take notes of the letters that were coming together. And then after the fact, they were able to put together all of the information.
Damn.
But this entity was communicating in full words and full sentences with special attention to grammar and spelling.
Interesting.
I literally wrote, which they thought was interesting. And it also reminded me, I saw this, actually there's a picture if you want to see it on YouTube. I follow the Language Nerds, which is one of my favorite Instagram accounts. The last words of Marquis de Favre after he read his death sentence before being hanged in 1790, his last words were, "I see that you have made 3 spelling mistakes." Which I'm
wow. That's like the best
boss
kind of
moves.
FU.
Yeah.
Well, you'll know it's me coming through the Ouija board if I die first because there will be no attention to grammar.
Yeah, it will just be chaotic.
Yeah.
Get as much through as possible.
Word vomit.
Yeah. They felt such intense and dark energy, and the following messages and answers and questions were kind of deciphered and put together after the fact, but I'll just relay it to you now. They asked the entity how long it had been trapped in the spirit world. The answer was 60 years. Question: did you die in the San Pedro house? The planchette moved to no. Where did you die? San Pedro Bay. Did you drown? No, I was held underwater. Did you live in the San Pedro house? My murderer lived there. How many spirits exist amongst the living? Phantoms fill the skies around you.
Oh my God.
The table is now shaking so violently. Barry asks, is there anyone in this room you have hate for? The planchette moves to J, E,
Jeff!
F, F. Jeff, frustrated, is like, why? Why me? Why are you focusing so much energy on me? What did I do? The spirit answered, you are the likeness of my killer.
Oh my God. But this is such a good clue because
right.
Look for someone who looks like Jeff who lived in this house. That is the murderer.
Right. So at that moment, as the Ouija board spells out, you are the likeness of my killer, everyone watches in shock as Jeff, who's sitting in a chair with his hand on the planchette, is literally with the chair levitated up off the ground and thrown against the wall.
I'm sure it's so confusing as a spirit too to like how do you recognize that this isn't your killer, right?
But
like there's
he
so
knows
much.
It's not. It says you are the likeness of my killer.
I know, but maybe
he's aware.
Maybe he's like it's a back and forth thing.
I think that, like, revenge and vengefulness and anger has consumed this spirit that it's almost
just
lost
gets to take it out
humanity.
on.
Yeah. Jackie's friend Tina screams. She runs out of the trailer. She's like, I am not going to be next. She's convinced that Jeff just died. Jackie runs to grab her kids, and apparently her kids were in the back of the trailer, and she was so scared to go through the hallway. She felt like something was there, but obviously her kids are back there. So she goes and she grabs them and she leaves. And Barry ran to Jeff, who fortunately was alive. But yet again, this spirit, now this is like 3rd time at least that the spirit has tried to harm him physically in such an intense, violent way.
Yeah.
They all left the trailer unharmed-ish, but truly were all horrified and traumatized by the experience. And after everyone left, Jackie's trailer was so cold she had to ignite a fire. Days later, Barry and Jeff, who were relieved to have survived, finally settle their nerves and review their conversations with the spirit, putting together all of this information. The entity had told them that he had been born in 1912 and died in 1930 and had been in the spirit realm for 60 years, which that times out because 1990 is 60 years after 1930. He had been murdered, held underwater in the San Pedro Bay in 1930. So Barry's like, is this enough information for us to find who this spirit is?
Right.
So,
and also, I think gentle parenting might have worked because this is clearly someone who is so hurt and hasn't processed their emotions and like doesn't know how to.
But how much of humanity is left in this spirit?
I don't know.
It's 60 years of anger.
And is it even fully the spirit, or is this like a Bell Witch thing where it's like a piece of the soul that's chipped off and manifested into this?
Right.
Vengeful creature.
Either way, Barry visits the News Pilot, which is a local paper in San Pedro, and he freaking flippin' finds an article dated 1930. The body of a man named Herman Hendrickson was discovered floating near the 22nd Street landing. When his body was discovered, authorities thought there was foul play. An autopsy determined that there was a fracture to the skull, but without further evidence, the man's death was deemed accidental, as if, and they presumed that he had fallen into the ocean, hit his head, and died.
Mm.
So the major discrepancy from this article and the story that the spirit told them was that he was murdered, according to the spirit, and held underwater. But was it possible that someone pushed him off of a pier or a boat? He hit his head. So he was murdered in the sense that he was pushed and held underwater because of his head injury.
Or like, there's rocks and kind of jetties and stuff. Like there could have been a struggle. They could have slammed his head on the rock and held him right underneath the water right there.
Right. Either way, he hit his head and drowned. Was Herman Hendrickson the spirit haunting, tormenting Jackie, Jeff, and this team? So Barry does more research into Herman and who he was before he died. Herman Hendrickson was a seaman who worked on a ship called the Astoria, which was a lumber steamer. Remember the knot that was tied on the rope that was around Jeff's neck? It was a bowline knot, which is a common knot that every seaman would know.
It's funny because I was going to make a joke like, oh, is he a boater? But then I was like, oh, classic, like knots, boats, the tie. Damn.
Literally tying it all together.
So it's him.
So that's what they think. Like they think it's him.
Well, who else would it be?
There's no real way to verify, though, who it was. And also there's no evidence of who did this, right? It's like, you can presume
go back
all this
and look at the identities of everyone who had lived in that house from the time that he had been murdered. You have the timestamp of like,
right.
Well, you don't necessarily know that the person who lived there at the time of this guy's death was the person who like at some point.
Yeah. He lived there.
But it also, because the spirit could have followed him.
Sure.
House to house until he died.
Sure.
I'm starting to respect him. Because he kind of, if this is true, he's pulling that like 7 psychopaths thing that I was saying I would do as a spirit if someone like harmed me.
You also said you'd do this in like life. You would go knock on everyone's door.
Semantics. But like he is trying to make the person who killed him, their life a living hell.
Right. Which I understand. But then once he dies, stop haunting innocent people.
Maybe he didn't die though. Maybe he's still alive and he just moved and is no longer
and he's a vampire.
Well, no, because if it was 60 years, what if the guy was like 20 years old that killed him? Now the guy's 80.
I guess. But then why didn't he follow him? Why did he put so much energy into targeting
maybe
Jackie?
The same reason it took so long for him to find Jackie. Maybe
it only took a couple of months. Anyway, he's incorrectly targeting people who are innocent.
That's true. His energy, it didn't dissipate. He just redirected it.
Right. It is cool. Like, it really makes me forgive everything about the Ouija board session because they would not have known all of this information otherwise.
This is, use it again. Now I need more.
So all of this information is adding up, but there's no real way to verify it, except for now I want to know the address of Jackie's San Pedro home so that we can go through all of the records and try to piece together the timeline and who this man was. Because then we have a picture of Jeff Wheaton, who is supposed to resemble the likeness of his killer. Could we figure out who it is?
Mm-hmm.
But Jackie's frustrated because they have all this information, but the hauntings are not stopping. And clearly moving to Walden, California didn't actually make a difference. And truthfully, Jackie did want to be back in San Pedro. So she's like, at this point, she's like, it doesn't matter where I live. I'm just going to move back to San Pedro with my kids.
Yeah.
They move into a brand new apartment and she has a priest come bless it upon moving in. But she's like, I know it doesn't matter. I can feel the energy around me.
Yeah.
Whatever it was with her. She continued to see balls of light in the home. She caught them on camera, hovering above the floor in her bedroom and the kitchen, everywhere. The light was the same as before. One bright light that would split and come back together over and over. It was a bright light that illuminated the carpet in photos, so it's like it has a reflection almost. It reflects off of things.
Which now this is reminding me of the crone in Greg and Dana's possession. Because remember when they first noticed on surveillance footage that there was like a reflection of the orb or whatever, and the crone had moved. So they like captured the spirit attached to it.
Saw the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but remember how you asked how things could get worse than being nearly killed in the attic?
Yes.
Here it begins. So the hauntings with Jackie kind of continue, but it does seem like the spirit is targeting Jeff. Because after this night of April 13th of using the Ouija board, Barry and Jeff are constantly targeted. There's one evening in 1990 that Barry and Jeff were staying at a hotel. I'm not sure what for, if it was because of this investigation or what.
Yeah.
But they left their hotel room for dinner. And when they came back, they found underneath their pillows were scissors.
How threatening.
And they're open.
Oh my God.
There's more.
Why is this guy so mad at them? They're trying to help. They're trying to figure things out.
And also, are these scissors that Barry and Jeff had, or is this ghost making them materialize out of thin air? The next night, they're back at Barry's place again, where Jeff would spend a lot of nights there just because they worked together a lot and they were good friends. And they start to hear things. And this was common at the house. They would have, this is where the gas stoves would turn on and everything. They walk into the kitchen and find one of those pairs of scissors from the night prior on the floor below the kitchen sink. So they start to take out the cameras and they start to film because they're like, now it's here.
Yeah.
They are filming and they see lights being turned on and off in another room. So they leave the kitchen to go investigate the lights. And there's a moment in the documentary, they return to the kitchen and you hear a loud metallic bang and they pan towards the stove, which is the same stove that the gas burners are turning on all by themselves. And another pair of scissors, different from the one that was below the kitchen sink, fell out of nowhere, landing on top of the stove.
Are they all matching?
They're all these like silver shears. Yeah.
So weird.
The entity was making it clear that no matter where they were not safe.
This is like another thing that makes me kind of the conspiracy theorist in me, where it's like when people say that we're in a simulation, how are these scissors just being created?
I saw a TikTok the other day where it was like someone was driving in 2 different occasions on the same day in different areas of the town. They saw someone walking backwards on a sidewalk. And there were 2 different people, like
that is so
in different
weird.
areas of the town. And it was like, is this proof we're in a simulation? What is happening?
See, I saw someone comment online one time, and I've never agreed with anything more. I said, if you believe every conspiracy, something is seriously wrong with you. If you don't believe in any conspiracy, something is seriously wrong with you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Kind of like with the paranormal. If you don't believe in the paranormal, something is wrong with you.
Exactly. Something is seriously wrong
Something
with
is just wrong with you. One night, a broomstick was found shoved into the stove, into the burner. Fortunately, they got home prior to the burner being lit and something worse happening. But literally, they have a photo of the broom sticking out of the gas stove burner.
Oh, wow.
Another night, they came home and a window had shattered, seemingly out of nowhere. So they are cleaning up the glass and they make a note of one particular piece that looked so dangerous. It looked like a dagger. Like it was a massive piece.
Jeez.
And they put it along with all the other glass into a trash bag and then took the trash bags out to the dumpster. And they came back inside, sitting upright in Barry's typewriter was a piece of glass that looked exactly like the dagger piece that they had stopped to talk about. And they're like, what are the chances that there were 2 pieces exactly the same and that we didn't see this one in the typewriter before?
This is so bizarre. I'm so confused by this whole story.
And there is part of me that's like, okay, did Barry and this is like the skeptical version of me, and I don't want to say I believe this, but just throw it out there. I'll posit it as a theory. A lot of these encounters that occurred, like the broom, the scissors, and stuff that happened at Jeff and Barry's, like when Jackie wasn't around, I'm like, did they fake this? Like, are they trying to make it more intense than it already was?
Yeah.
Because so much is happening to Jeff and Barry. Yes, a lot of hauntings are happening to Jackie as well, but could Jeff and Barry be feeding off of this and making it an entertainment piece?
Maybe, but also just the voicemails and stuff that Jackie, like what she was saying she was seeing and feeling.
I don't think Jackie made up anything.
Neighbors and whatnot. It does make me think like there's always a chance that people are making stuff up and exaggerating with anything in life.
Right.
But given how much Jackie herself experienced and neighbors experienced, I would imagine that this spirit would probably be really upset with people coming in and trying to meddle.
And also Jackie was physically pushed. And she witnessed like Jeff being levitated and thrown against the wall. So it's not a hard jump to be like, if that's all happening in front of Jackie and other witnesses, then all of this stuff could be happening to Barry and Jeff where there aren't as many witnesses.
Yeah.
Either way, more stuff starts happening. On August 29th of 1990, the activity at Barry Conrad's Los Angeles apartment escalated yet again. Jeff was physically shoved onto the bed in the apartment while he was walking into a room. So he entered the doorway and then literally was pushed. Luckily, the bed was there. He fell onto the bed. When they looked at Jeff's back, there was a big red mark in the spot where he felt he was pushed. Again, Jeff was the target of the entity's attacks. Now, months later, December 4th, 1990, Barry spent the evening with Jeff and Gary filming a Christmas event, which is one of the ways that they made their actual money. And they went to Barry's apartment after, only to experience some of the most horrific activity. 30 to 40 paranormal events all occurred that night, December 4th, 1990. Again, the burners in the kitchen on the gas stove were turning on and off. A knife was thrown in the kitchen. Something even drew on the camera lens, and when they looked closely, it looked like 2 different colors of ink. So 2 different pens, as if it was trying to block them from filming.
Wow.
Objects were thrown. At 3:59 a.m., Barry Conrad basically puts a envelope and a pen on, this was a poor decision on his part. At 3:59 a.m., Barry Conrad invited the entity to write a message on an envelope. And here's the mistake that I don't know how he didn't put this together, but he puts a blank envelope and a pen on the stove. So it's 4 burners. And so like, like the middle part is like,
yeah, like the
whatever the material is, metal.
plasticky thingy.
So he puts it there. 5 minutes later, they go back in the kitchen. That envelope is burning and all 4 burners are on.
Why would he put anything on the stove?
That
I feel like that's where I'm like, you're kind of asking for it.
This is a part that is absolutely like shit your pants terrifying.
Oh my God.
So they go in there and they had gone in there basically like, let's just check. The envelope is burning. All 4 burners are on. They turn off all 4 burners. They get rid of the fire ablazed envelope. They leave the room. As they are leaving the room, they hear something fall. They turn around. Thank God they had turned all those burners off. What falls on top of the gas stove, seemingly out of freaking nowhere, is a box of rifle shells.
What?
Which, one, I'm like, if that was kept in the kitchen, that's so dumb. But 2, if it appeared out of nowhere, how horrifying. Falling on
just
top
shells, or was there any like ammunition?
I think
like
there was
powder?
ammunition in it, but they were not in any weapons.
I don't know what happens to gunpowder if it's just
I think it explodes.
Just like these little pockets, just like
if it gets lit up,
like metal shrapnel.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Thank goodness moments before they had turned off the stove. Anyway, everyone, this all is in one night. Everyone witnessed a light fly towards Jeff, almost flying into him. And as it like goes into him, the light disappears and Jeff was violently thrown into the corner.
Oh my God.
Again, the light going into him, into someone, and physical change happening. By sunrise, everything fell quiet. Barry tried to review this footage in his editing bay when the system began malfunctioning. Like lights on the machine were flashing in such inconsistent patterns that they were like, the only reason this would be happening is if something or someone was actually pressing the buttons. So they're no closer to getting real answers when all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, the haunting stopped. Similar to the Smurl possession, they just randomly one day stopped. After years and years of torment, they stopped.
I'd be so curious again if they go back and they figure out who looks like Jeff, who lived in the house, and then look at the date that the hauntings stopped, and then look at the date that that person died, if that matches up. If they were just waiting for this person to be on their plane.
Should we call Barry Conrad?
Barry.
We have
That's
some
so
ideas.
Wild. I'm curious when they were using the Ouija board if they ever asked, like, what do you want?
Yeah, that's not recorded anywhere, but
I feel like that's probably maybe the first question
I would ask. Yeah. Or is there anything I can do for you?
Right. Yeah, they're responding in full sentences. So it's clearly like,
yeah,
you want something.
So granted, it was Friday the 13th, April 13th, 1990 that they used the Ouija board. So presumably right around then is when Barry put together and found this article of Herman Hendrickson, and the hauntings stop somewhere before winter of 1991, like January of 91. So it's like they end December-ish 1990.
Yeah.
So like there's part of me that was like, oh, did putting together, just identifying the spirit help put them at ease? Because it was like, at least someone knows my story. But it continued for months after that. So I don't know.
So weird. When it just stops.
It's like, why? What happened? I think you're onto something with the potential
death date.
Yeah.
Of the person.
Or did like a relative, a loved one pass away and
they
help
were waiting
him move
for.
on? Yeah.
Yeah. Something had to have happened in the astral plane or someone's passing that would make this stop, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. And we know that this was a human that lived.
My other theory is like perhaps someone new moved into that house and the entity got a new target.
Oh, shit. But then, I don't know, like, wouldn't we hear about? I feel like this group would have done their due diligence and like kind of checked back at the house to see.
But not if it's someone who's not open to talking about it. Either way, Jackie thinks the entity is still around her. Occasionally, she does have some activity that still happens, but she said it mostly when it comes to this spirit and the negative energy, she feels like it's just a knowing, like knowing that he's still around and lurking, which could be a post-traumatic stress disorder experience where like the fear of it continuing or happening again is just lurking.
Yeah.
But Jackie does believe that there were multiple spirits haunting her in the San Pedro home. And I do want to end this story with a little bit more of a positive account. So remember the old man that was sitting in the bed in part 1?
Yes, cross-legged with his red flannel shirt tucked into his
high-waisted pants.
Yeah.
And the voice of potentially a protective spirit saying, don't come in here. She believes it was a spirit of, and she did some research to figure this out, but the man that built the home, the bungalow in San Pedro, his name was John Damon. And she believed that this might be the good spirit because she had this really beautiful encounter. So she's in San Pedro and she all of a sudden sees this bright light. And this is spring of 1990. And she sees this bright light that was visible in daylight and it started moving. So she felt like she had to follow it. And she followed it apparently to a nearby graveyard where it hovered around a grave. And according to Jackie, the grave had the name John Damon engraved on it. According to Jackie, and this is a quote from the Los Angeles Times article written in 1993, the ball of light went around and around the grave and then just disappeared. And she went on record saying that she believed it was the spirit of John Damon saying goodbye.
I love that he realized something was wrong in the house and that he was staying there to try his best to try to do anything and protect who's there.
Right.
Oh.
So that's one positive story to end us on.
Gosh.
But in this article, Jackie went on to say that her daughter was really too young to remember anything, which she was grateful for. But her son was impacted greatly and even once was thrown against the wall by an unseen force and was plagued by nightmares for some time.
Holy shit.
As he grew up, he seemed to have outgrown them. But that is the befuddling, mysterious / terrifying case of the San Pedro Poltergeist and Jackie Hernandez's story. And I truly have no idea.
It's so weird because we're like so close to getting answers, but then don't have any at the end.
Right. And part of me is like, okay, this entity was clearly in the home. Like he admitted to being in that house because that's where the killer lived. Did anyone who lived there before Jackie experience anything? Or was Jackie just the like perfect combination of things that could activate it? Like a young kid, she's pregnant with a second kid on it,
undergoing so much stress.
Second kid on its way. Like, was it just the perfect storm that all of that energy was just right at the right moment that activated the energy?
Yeah. Well, and they say like when you're going through any life change, like if you're having a baby, if you adopt a dog, if your goldfish dies, like you should do a cleansing. And it's like she had a million things all at once happen.
Yeah. Right.
That would warrant trying to clear your space.
Right. And then why did it stop? That is my biggest question.
Yeah. And for the amount of violence that it had, I'm so curious. 1, why it stopped. And 2, why it didn't utilize the Ouija board. 2, like why just answer the questions that they ask? Like if I don't know the rules of the Ouija board on the other side, but like I feel like that's your opportunity to monologue. Like say what you want.
And I mean, he was saying a lot. So he was utilizing his stage.
Right. That's your chance
to
say,
moment.
Here's what I need from you.
I really, truly believe he was just so wrapped up in anger that, like you were saying, similar to the Bell Witch, what humanity was left was so small, and the energy of anger and hate or revenge was so strong that it was a primary force.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. I have an email called "That Time an Entity Tried to Take My Boyfriend."
Excuse me, rude.
Hey, besties. New listener from Ladies and Tangents.
Hey.
I would like to start off with an apology for the spelling and mess of this email. I have a spicy ADHD brain. Haha. Well, honestly, that probably makes this email perfect and easy for me to read.
Yeah.
My name is Tori.
The worse it's written, the easier it is for us to read.
Yeah. I'm from Brisbane, Australia. I have binged almost all of your episodes, and I've fallen in love with you guys, so thank you for filling my ears while I'm at work and at the gym. And with that, hold on to your butts, because this is going to get wild.
You know what's crazy? I went through a period of time where I was re-listening to our episodes while I was on the treadmill, like walking. And I had to stop because I felt like I kept, especially specific episodes, I would get so spooked that I hated the sensation of like looking over my shoulder or feeling like I needed to look over from our own podcast.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know how people run on treadmills.
Yeah.
Or
I used
run
to
outside
listen like when I lived in Boston and I had a walking commute that was like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But no longer. Now I want to go back and like choose a random one and see if I get scared.
The one that scared me the most over the summer was the episode where we talked about Greg and Dana's haunted objects.
And the Bible.
Which
we won't talk
also,
about that.
By the way, they've taken everything about that off the internet. You can't find anything about the corrupted testament.
Well, so we're not going to talk about it.
Because we can't. We don't know. You do know, though.
Oh, yeah. It's in my research that I
personally just want to know.
I'll just send you what I'd written.
Great.
But I'm scared. Maybe I'll have you read it in here. Just on my computer. I'm not like sending it anywhere. It's just like you see where it already exists. Works. You can read through it. Okay. So first in background, I am sensitive, meaning that I can see, hear, feel, dream, and smell all the ghosties. And I have for my entire life.
You have every clear, whatever. Like you have every clear.
You're Clairol. This is sometimes good and sometimes bad, as this tale will show. Let's jump in the Wayback Machine to give or take a decade. And I'm 17. I'm living in a share house with a few friends, and we spend our time smoking the devil's lettuce and binge drinking because youth.
Gardening, as they call it. The youth call it.
We also delve into playing with Ouija boards because, dumb youth. But we do know the rules. Don't play inside, always have white candles, say a prayer before starting, always say goodbye, and never, ever take your hand off the planchette.
I never heard don't play inside.
I never heard that either. I feel like that's the only place I've ever played.
Right. I feel more scared playing outside.
What are you opening up? A whole giant portal in the sky?
The whole world.
Which we did follow these rules. We'd played multiple times in different places, and for example, we played at the cemetery down the road. But this night in particular, we played in the driveway of the house while it was raining. And we were under the eaves for shelter. And this meant that the board was up against the garage door. And one of my friends was on the opposite side. Another was on the right side of the board. My boyfriend on the left. And I was the scriber being off to the side next to my boyfriend.
Okay.
We stated a prayer. We lit the candles. And we asked if there was anyone that wanted to talk to us. And I cannot remember what was asked or what answers we received. We played for a few hours. And side note, I don't know if either of you have played with a board before. But time flies when you do. It's like you go on to Spirit's time, and it's like 3 times the speed of regular time. Anyway, I feel like we only asked a few questions, and it was time to go home because it was late. So we all say goodbye to the board, we cleaned it up, and we went our separate ways. This night, I was staying at my mom's house, and my boyfriend and I drove home. While in the car, my boyfriend asked me, "Could you see the thing that we were talking to?" I replied, "No. Could you?" He replied, "Yeah. It was up against the garage wall, hanging upside down with long fingers and one long black nail on the planchette."
Ew. Oh my God.
I was shocked. That is terrifying. Long limbs.
Hanging upside down, like a bat.
Yeah. Long limbs, massive hands, really long black fingernails, using one long black fingernail to move the planchette. No, thank you. What on earth were we talking to?
I hate that.
20-minute ride back to my mom's house.
Also, it totally knew that he could see it.
Yeah. Disgusting. It's isolating him.
Shit.
20-minute ride back to my mom's house. We rode in silence after this. Side note, my ex and I had a little routine. Eat, smoke, shower, then bed. So when we arrived home, he went straight to bed. I was like, well, I'm hungry. And so I ate, I had a smoke, a shower, and then came to bed. The light was off, but I could tell that he was in the middle of the bed. And I was like, can you move over? Nothing. Babe, please move over. Nothing. I then shook him. Nothing. In a 17-year-old rage, I turned the light on. You're so annoying. Move over.
Oh, no.
And there, I saw him, lying flat like a board on his back. His eyes open. His mouth open, his lips blue, his hands to his chest, with the imprint of hands on his throat and chest, because at this point he wasn't wearing a t-shirt, and I freaked out, immediate panic. I stood there looking at him, being like, fuck, what do I do? What do I do? So I yelled, let go of him! Let go of him! He's not yours, let go! And nothing. I only allow those who walk through the white light to be in here. Anything else is not welcome. Let go! Nothing. Just weird gurgling noises coming from his open mouth.
Oh my God.
His eyes looking straight forward, looking at the ceiling. So I flung the door open. I ran to my mom's room. I woke her up. Mom, wake up. He isn't breathing. I need help. What do I do?
How horrifying as a mother.
Oh my God. I have chills just reading this. Mom, in her half asleep state, was extremely confused. He isn't breathing, Mom. There's something on him. So Mom walks into the room and quickly turns to me and says, what did you do? What did you contact?
She knew.
I quickly
she
said,
knew instantly.
We did a spirit board tonight. And she snapped at me. You idiots! Call 000. So I called 000 and I asked for an ambulance to attend to our house. My mom was in the room with him. She was trying to complete CPR, but nothing was working.
Holy
we could not
shit.
move his arms from his chest. We couldn't do anything. So my mom grabbed some sage from her room and we started burning it in our room. The ambulance arrived 5 minutes later. I ran to the front door. I flung it open. I let them in. I waved them down as they turned into my driveway. I turned around to get my mom and boom, there's my boyfriend. He's standing an inch from my face.
What?
He asks, what are you doing? What am I doing? What the heck are you doing? I thought you were dead. I screamed at him. He replies, what am I doing? We just got home. Why are you opening the door? Why is there an ambulance here? Is your mom okay? I am stunned. He remembers nothing. I quickly explained why we're there. He reluctantly gets into the back of the ambulance. They check his vitals. They give him a clean bill of health. What?
What did her mom witness?
I think all that same thing.
Because wasn't the mom upstairs with him?
Oh yeah, like how did he
What happened in that moment?
Once that was all finished, we went back inside and I asked him what he thinks had happened. And he explained to me that he did not remember coming home. He just remembers when he asked me at the door, what are you doing? Thinking that we had just arrived home.
Shut
So what?
up.
This is crazy. We completed a cleanse of the house and of him that night before we went back to bed. I guess we will never know what it was that tried to take him. But yeah, we never touched another spirit board again. Lesson learned. Thanks for reading my story. I have plenty more, like how my toddler spirit guide saved my life and two of my friends' lives when I was in a car that rolled off the top of a mountain. Or the manifestation of depression of my ex's family being a poltergeist and did not like me being in their house. But yeah, I'll save those for another time.
Yeah, I can't even process I want to hear those other stories, but like I'm still trying to process.
Love ya, Tori.
Tori. Okay, because this is giving me big Nosferatu vibes, but is there a possibility? There is. Of course there is. There's a possibility to anything because none of this makes sense. Is there a possibility that this entity actually manipulated Tori and her mom to experience this whole thing, but it was actually like what the boyfriend experience of them just getting home was the real?
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I mean, it's whatever it was. Like, does the boyfriend remember the Ouija board experience? Like, it's just everything
I think so.
Getting home?
It's just after. I think it's like the car ride, nothing.
This is the one part of Nosferatu that I wish you, like, I think you would like, is the power that this vampire, Nosferatu, has over so many people.
I put a spell on
It very much is like that.
And now you're mine.
His hand, I mean, granted, these hands are way more beautiful on our wallpaper, but there's a lot of like
I thought you were talking about your hands.
Oh, no, there's a lot of moments where like the long, creepy nail hand shadow is reaching over cities of people.
Yuck. How wild, though. How wild. Oh, and how scary, too, to just like basically see your boyfriend dead in bed.
And not be able to do anything.
Yeah. Also, the fact that like his arms were stuck to him, like they couldn't pry his arms off of him to try to like do
he
CPR.
Was a corpse. Like a rigid post-mortem.
Oh my God, what is it called?
Rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis. Yeah. Wild.
Well, that was quite the episode. All right.
Sleep well, everyone.
Nighty-night. Yeah, if you have any haunting encounters, please email them to us at twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com. If you would like episodes ad-free and 1 week early, please join us on Patreon, where you also get access to Campfire Stories, which is live every Tuesday. You get bonus content and so much more.
You can tell all your friends about us. That would be pretty sick.
Pretty cool.
Pretty sweet.
Pyramid
pretty cool of you.
scheme.
That'd be nice. Thanks. A shout out to Jamie, who edits our episodes. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of you.
We love you.
We hope you come back next week.
We really do. We can't promise it will be great, but it will be fun.
Well, it's my episode, so maybe it won't be great.
What episode are you doing? Tease us.
There's a screaming house.
It's going to be amazing. I need to have more confidence in everything I do. Because if I feel like people who walk around just like confident as all shit, other people think that they're great.
Yeah.
If you think you're great.
I think it's posture.
Well, mine's
Just
terrible.
Keep
Look at us.
Keep your chin up. Yeah, I'm hunched over too. Well,
I love you.
And we will see you on the other side.